Today's episode of Tiling Connect is brought to you by Lux's Grates, the leaders in aluminium drainage, which are UV stable, rust proof and customisable on site. Available in your local tile or plumbing shop. Excellent. G'day everybody, Mark here from Tiling Connect. Welcome to today's episode. I have another fantastic guest on with us today and our very first international tiling contractor, which is super cool. We have Schannon here from That Tile Chick over in Houston, Texas. So Schannon, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, as we typically tend to have it, we jump straight into plenty of Q&A, and I love starting these shows just finding out more about the person that joins us on these episodes. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you, and please tell us about you and how you got into tiling in this space.
So I got into tiling sort of on accident. Before setting tile or doing anything like that, I was an accountant. So I went to college for that. I did that for very many years. Not a lot, but I would say a lot. Because I went to college for 4 years, and then I was an accountant for quite a while. And I looking back, like when I was in it, I was like, oh, I'm not happy. I was miserable. So looking back, I realized how miserable I really was. But when I was in it, I was like, just kind of like pushing through, I guess. And not really focusing on how much I actually hated my job every day. Yeah, but wow. Looking back, I hated it. Anyway, so I landed my dream job, and I'm bringing this up because it was a very pivotal point for me. And my dream job was, I was an auditor for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and they're like a quasi-government agency, and they like own the World Trade Center. They own very many like airports on the East Coast. Wow. They own like the Holland and Lincoln Tunnel. So what I was an auditor for the construction division. So any construction that was going on any of their properties, they hired a lot of union work. So there was a lot of double checking and making sure all of the numbers were correct. And that was my job. And so anytime anything went wrong, the coolest part of my job was I got to go to site and go talk to like the engineers or the supervisor or whoever. That was the coolest part of the job. But other than that, it was very miserable because nobody operated there based on level of like, now I'm not going to say that they don't do good work. Like there's definitely hard workers there, but you can go there and like, once you're in, you're kind of in, and you just like move up with years. So like you could have been like the hardest worker, but unless you had the years under your belt, you're not going to move up, And I think that when I was there, I don't really think I connected those two things, but it's just like I had this overwhelming feeling of like complacency, and I didn't want that for myself. So in 2017, my now husband and I, we decided we're just going to drop everything here. We're going to move. So we moved from the East Coast to Texas.
Wow.
And yeah,
that's a big jump, right?
Yes. So it's about like 1,500 miles away. And
wow.
We've never been, I never been to Texas, and we wanted to move somewhere where it was warmer. It was a more affordable, because where we were living, we couldn't really afford a house with even a backyard, So that was another big factor, was we wanted to buy a home, and nothing there was really affordable within driving distance. You would either need to take a train and be traveling for many hours. So that was another big decision, deciding factor on why we chose where we chose. But it was mostly weather, the affordability, the economy here was good. There's jobs, stuff like that. So Chris and I, my husband, we put our heads together and we're like, well, what do we know, right? We know construction. He worked construction growing up. And just with my financial background and the things that I've known for the past couple of years, and my dad was also a mason my whole life. So he's ran his own business and I helped along the way. But I knew very little at this point, like as far as being a small business owner. So we decided we were going to start our own business, and at that time it was just GC projects. So like we would do anything for like home renovations. So it could be like, all flooring, it could be paint, baseboard, anything, right? So, but we would be hiring out the subs and managing the projects. It was extremely difficult to get started, obviously, in a new location. We knew that. We had money saved, but it was like we were really taking a risk. And from 2017 to 2020, there was like a lot of ups and downs, a lot of struggles, a lot of barely making the bills type stuff, which is pretty normal and common. But we really dove into the tile industry more specifically within those couple of years, because we were having a lot of problems in Houston with failing showers, customers calling us like, oh, well, my shower's leaking and we need a contractor to fix it, like ASAP. We need them to fix it tomorrow. So we would like demo these showers, and we're like, well, why is this a common problem? Because at the time our knowledge was very surface level. It wasn't like so deep like we know now. And we were just like, it brought us to this point where we're like, what is the problem here? Like, why are these clients constantly either getting ripped off, contractors walking away from the job? Like, granted, everybody in the trade, they're like, oh yeah, well, it's because they picked the lowest, whatever. And that wasn't always the case. Some clients actually, they paid a pretty penny for, that's something we say here. I don't know if you guys say that. They paid a lot of money for a job that they thought was going to be well done. They didn't pick the cheapest contractor, and they were still getting ripped off. So it led us down this path of getting into the trade, right? Networking with well-known installers in our area. Like, do you see these problems? Like, what is it that you're doing? Like, what products are you using? What is good? What isn't? We started going to industry events. We started meeting more people in the industry. And we came across this guy in our area. He was an older gentleman, and he had his business for like 40 years. And this was probably around like 2019. And he, at this time, I was working because our business was bringing in a little bit of money. Like, I'm talking very little, right? We were barely breaking even. So I still had to work because we still had bills and we still needed to buy groceries and eat, right? So
absolutely.
At this time, like, Chris was running the business during the week, and sometimes, like, if he couldn't get a sub in, like, he was also working. So he's working, trying to manage the jobs and also try to run the business. So he was really getting burnt out very quickly. Like, 2019 was a really bad year, because even then on the weekends I would have to go to work, and we'd be working. We worked Christmas, we worked Thanksgiving, we were working very, very late, like into the night. And sometimes I tried to still go to work the next day, but it was difficult. And this guy that we met, he was like, well, I really need to retire. Like, I can't set tile anymore. I have health issues, and like, I'm trying to get into this other stuff. Like, and, I invested a lot of money into starting up this other business. So like, if you guys want to take on my clientele, I'd be happy to pass that over to you. Like, I've seen your work.
Wow.
I know how you guys, work and how dedicated you are, to obviously like being educated and doing right by the client, that he felt very confident in our abilities. So for about a year, he kind of mentored us, right? Like, we would go on estimates with him. Like, he would tell us about all of the clients he has. Like, when he gets a phone call, like what they were looking for, like, he would stop what he was doing to come out to the job site with us to like walk through and go over the estimating process that he's used for the last 40 years.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Like, a lot of that stuff I really have to credit to him, because he, definitely guided us in the right direction. And now, like, if it had not been for that, we probably wouldn't be where we are. So he was
it's a pretty honorable thing for someone to do, to hand over their business knowing that they're retiring, and then to actually have that much care about what they've done for the past 20 or 30 years, to then go, I really need to hand this over to somebody and not let it just disappear. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So like, he, he didn't like give us the name or anything, but he definitely, anytime like a client would call and it was a client, either a repeat client or a referral, he'd be like, these are my proteges. Like I am vetting them. He physically brought us there. He wasn't like, oh, I'm going to send this person. No, He physically showed up. And so it made a world of difference in terms of trust for these people who have known him forever. And he's very well known in the area. He's still very well known. So anyway, like that kind of catapulted us. So from like 2019 to 2020, like we started doing jobs under him, and like, we were working very closely alongside him. Like if we had issues, like we would call him. If like there was something we ran across on site that we just like needed guidance on, we would call him, and he always, either showed up to help us or gave us the right, gave us the answer, gave us the information we needed just to make sure that we were moving in the right direction. Come 2020, we were like, he said, if I'm confident that, Shannon, if you want to work on the business full time, that you can do that if that was something you wanted to do. And like, he's like, based on like my clientele, like you guys can just do it. Like you don't even need a helper. It would just be you and Shannon, me and Chris. And we decided to just take the leap of faith. We were like, why not? Because if there's any other time to do it, like we already moved here, like we've already been struggling. I don't know if it can get any worse than that. And like, it seems to be going good for the last couple of months. So why not? Right. And as an accountant, you can get a job anytime. So we did it. And at that time I was like, oh, well, let's start a social media page. And like, I can just share my journey, because being an accountant to setting tile is kind of crazy. It's a crazy transition. And I was like, oh, well, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying doing projects. So I want to share. And so I started the page, and now here we are a couple of years later.
I know. Talk about a wild ride. So you're unlike any of my other guests that I've had on the show so far. And I'm still very young in the podcasting space, but you've been tiling for only a few years. Total about 5 or 6 years now, you reckon?
Yeah. So let's see, 2017, 18, 19, 20. Yeah. So it's like 5 years.
Excellent. And you've amassed so much business clout in the last, 5 or 6 years, particularly with your social media, digital media stuff, which is obviously exploded in the last couple of years, with you sharing your journey and taking people along that pathway to see. Well, I read something earlier. It's a great way to be able to inspire people to through your journey to want to do the same thing, which is fantastic.
Which is a big goal for me. It's one of the driving forces why I keep doing it, because sometimes it seems like when you deal with a lot of negativity, sometimes you could just like feel burnt out and you're just like over it. You're like, this isn't what I came here for, to deal with other people's like, I don't know, hatred of themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
And
I think they call it ego. I think that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, or lack of their own confidence. I don't know, but sometimes, you can get very jaded and you're like, this is like, I'm not in it for this. Like, and a lot of times, like, I feel like other people hold a lot more weight in social media than I do. Like I started out doing it because it was fun, right? Yeah. Like I'm sharing something that I like, not doing it for other people to look at me and say, wow, like, no, it's like, I'm just sharing my journey. So you take it for what it is. If you care, you care. If you don't, there's thousands of other people you can look at, or you could just delete the app and never look at it.
Exactly.
Like there's you got so many options. Like nobody is holding your hands behind your back. Like you got to do this. Like, so it's an interesting place. I have a lot of thoughts on it. Sometimes depending on the day, how you ask me, they'll either be better or worse.
Yeah. It's such a spider's web of information, social media. I think one of the things that I've learned to ignore is just the haters, the people that, for whatever reason don't like what you're doing. And it's just like, you just can't, you don't read it, you just ignore it. as you've just said, there's an easy option for you to exit the conversation, delete the app, don't follow me, whatever it might be. Get off. Yeah. So yeah, there's plenty of options. So look, tell me, that's a really cool journey. And obviously you've had to deal with the pandemic during that as well. So that obviously would have thrown a few challenges in there for you, considering you had only just moved over to Texas. Mm-hmm. What's been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced since starting this journey?
So luckily, I'm very grateful for this. Like, COVID wasn't really a challenge. Where I live in a state where we did shut down for 2 weeks. Our governor shut us down for the first 2 weeks only. And after that, that's it. Yeah. So I'm very great. I'm looking back, I'm very grateful for that. So like, my business really didn't skip a beat. And I know that I made out very lucky compared to a lot of other people. But my biggest challenge in all is, and it still is, being a small business owner and wearing so many hats, right? Like, I have a lot of skill in the finance world. I have a lot of skill in, business, but putting everything together, doing the work, getting the clients, doing the finances, right? Making sure that everything is, make sure you're legal, like your taxes are paid and all of that. And then also doing the marketing and being the face of the company, like all of those hats that you have to wear is extremely overwhelming. It can be very difficult. It's like heavy on your brain sometimes when you just want to like sit outside and drink your coffee with your dogs or whatever. And like, when you're sitting there and those intrusive thoughts like, oh, did I do this or did I do that? Or like, I have free time, I really should be like working on this or whatever. But truthfully, like, the work never ends. So you have to learn that balance. And that's the hardest part for me. And it's like still a challenge. I think it will always be a challenge for me.
Have you learned throughout the journey from your accountancy days to being a contractor, are there any tips and tricks that you've learned to best manage those things?
Yes. And luckily, like, a lot of that, most of it comes from knowing. And I think that the biggest tip that I can give to somebody who maybe they don't know is keeping track of your expenses, right? Like, I don't know, just like your daily stuff, right? There's something that we call it, month-end reconciliation. And when I was an accountant, and when I was not doing auditing and I was doing accounting, which they fall under the same umbrella, but when you're actually accounting, like, you're actually in there, like, moving the numbers around in the place. When I was doing that job, making, like, digesting it in small pieces is easier. So like, as a small business owner, right, what we'll do is we'll let months and months go on where we're creating expenses and things are happening in the business, and we're not doing those reconciliations every month. And so like, softwares like QuickBooks, right, they make it super easy. But I think that the big words and the whatever over complications that it sounds like scares people away from wanting to do it, because it's like, well, that's like, there's so much stuff, right? But really, like, if you hire a bookkeeper, they set it up for you one time and you learn, like, you just take that time to educate yourself on how to do something. Because yes, while it is nice to like farm out some work so that you don't have to think about it, if something happens to that person and you maybe need to hire a new person, it's always good to know, like, the background processes, or maybe like the basic understanding of how to do something. Truthfully, monthly reconciliations are so easy, and QuickBooks makes it so simple. Like, you literally go under the banking tab and you're like, oh, I remember I got gas here. Oh, I remember we ate, I took my buddy out to, like, one of my tiling friends out to lunch here, or, I remember, like, this is my monthly bill, and you click and you approve, and it's super simple. They also have they have an app so you can snap pictures of your receipts. I don't know how it is in Australia as far as like the taxes and what you need to keep for record. But here, like the IRS accepts digital copies of your receipt as long as it's 100% legible. So I don't have a box of receipts. I snap the picture of the receipt, I crumble it up, and I throw it in the garbage. And then like all of my accounts are preloaded onto QuickBooks. So whenever, like when it sees that charge for like $18 from whatever hardware store, it matches that receipt that I scanned in with my phone to that expense. So that at the end of the month, when I look at my banking section, I hit approve and it shows me that there's a receipt attached. So like if I was ever to get audited by the IRS and they were like, do you have proof of these expenses for $10,000 for the month of whatever, they can just go through, all the digital files are there and there shouldn't be any problems.
Which is pretty awesome.
Waiting till it's a mountain of papers and you're keeping all these receipts, that's when it like starts to get super overwhelming. I know a lot of people are still doing that, especially contractors.
Absolutely. Look, it's that digital space with paperwork has been fantastic the last sort of 4 or 5 years, going from paper to putting everything into the cloud and scanning things, and it's just, oh my God, it's so much better. And it saves so much space. And literally, I love the throwaway factor. The fact that you can just scan something really quickly and go, I don't need that anymore. And it not only just
your headspace. You don't need to carry around that receipt, find the box, make sure it's in the box, and then you're like, I got to deal with that later. And as it's piling up, it's like this like proverbial pile of work you have to figure out later on. And it's like one other thing, No.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you have, if you've read and sort of listened to any other podcasts and read any other books of in entrepreneurship and business and mentorship, and how they all talk about decluttering your mind and keeping everything out of that's putting everything into the cloud is the best way to do that. The only thing that can go wrong is if the world runs out of electricity, then we're probably in trouble, but that's okay because that'd be a much bigger problem.
Like at that point, all those other things that are up in the cloud, if we don't have electricity, they become, would it be the worst thing? I'm not sure if it would be the worst thing.
we have to start again with pencil and eraser. That's cool. Well, look, in your journey so far, what would you describe as one of the biggest challenges that you've seen in the construction game in the States?
One of the biggest challenges in construction in the States is adapting to new technology. So anytime there's like something new that comes out, it could have been out for years. And if somebody sees it for the first time, they're like, that's not going to work. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, blah, 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 blah. And it's just always. And I don't want to just say that's construction. I kind of feel like that's really anything in the world. There's going to be early adapters to things. There's going to be people who just like refuse to learn and adapt, and they just like become irrelevant. Although they're loud, they make a lot of noise. Like, people like when Facebook came out, right? People are like, oh, like this is stupid. Like MySpace didn't work. And now like, look at it. It's like ridiculous. It's so big. We can't even put our mind around it, So that's like the biggest thing, especially. And I really contribute most of that. Me complaining about that is because I'm on social media and I like to try new things, or like, I like to stay abreast of a lot of like prominent information. And I don't want to like be sharing stuff that's either old, outdated, or has been proven to fail for some reason. So my thing is I'm constantly on that cusp of like controversy with people who've been doing it for like 20 years a certain way, and they don't, they'll never change and they don't want to change. Who knows? I feel like a lot of these people who make comments, they don't even have a business and they don't even, build showers. Maybe they built a shower one time 20 years ago with their grandpa, and now they're like, that's not right. So you can't really go by that, but
no,
I do generally feel like it is adapting to technology all across the board, not just like installation products or installation methods. I think maybe even just technology in general, right? Like when I came out and started making videos, I was in like these Facebook groups with a couple of these like older tile setters. And like I would post a video on there. They're like, oh, what's the point of post? Why are you posting a video of yourself? Like, or, you know, they would see it as like sexual. And I'm like, what? Like, this has nothing to do with, you know, that. And it has everything to do with like, I'm just showing what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah.
My body is in it, but it's my body. Like I can't change it. Like I'm wearing clothes. I'm not like, you know, I'm not doing anything. I don't know. I don't even know what you would call it, but it was weird. It was so weird. And they just didn't understand it. So,
and that's a big part of the problem is that I think when things are new and people don't understand what it is, they're scared of it. And they're like, oh, they go into a default mechanism of I'm going to tear it apart so that I feel better about what I'm watching. It's a really, really strange space, but I think it's human nature that you always get scared of something that's new and the unknown. So I think that's but digital media and social media certainly come a long way, particularly in that trade space. And you know, I know it's obviously helped a lot of industries, but certainly here in Australia, a lot of the tiling contractors or professional tilers, we call them, use Instagram as their it's like their resume. So whenever they're doing work, they're inspired to want to share that with a wider audience so that they can actually they're proud of what they've done. They're very proud, and that's a good space for them to be able to share that work. So it's an important thing, right?
Yeah, I think tiling is a very creative trade, and I think that social media and sharing on social media is another creative outlet. There's so many ways you can look at it, but I think it's a tool. And I think a lot of people focus a lot on the negative, like, oh yeah, you're mindlessly scrolling, so your mind is going to crap. But like, I try not to mindlessly scroll. Like I like to be inspired by other people, motivated by other people. I like to see like other people succeeding or posting their really awesome job or sharing some cool information or getting in front of the camera and talking about something they care about or they're passionate about. It's inspiring. So like, while yes, there's some negatives to social media, there's also so many good positives. And I've also met so many amazing people because of social media that like I cannot attribute all negativity to it.
Yeah, definitely. Very awesome. I'm going to keep going with my questions because I have some really cool ones coming up. Thank you for sharing what you have so far. It's been great. Thank you. Just talking about, I suppose, life in general. What would be some of the biggest lessons that you think you've learned in life and in business that have shaped who you are today?
Some of the biggest lessons I've learned is that you cannot take other people's opinions so literally. You know, mostly someone's opinion is not really a reflection of you; it's a reflection of them. And like the only way that I came to this conclusion is like I've done a lot of reading, you know, like certain books and stuff like that to try to get my mind in a space where I can mentally handle running my business, now multiple businesses, handle the media aspect of it, handle the installations, and also still be able to love what I do without allowing somebody else to strip that of me, you know, strip that away from me, I guess I'm trying to say, with anything bad that they have to say. It doesn't have, I'm not just in social media, but like in life in general, when something bad happens, like it's not about the situation. It's always about how you react. And it's so cliche, but it really is true because the only person's emotions and feelings you can control is your own. And unless you're in complete control of those, things can spiral out of control really quickly. And you can either waste your days focusing on something that is so irrelevant, or you can focus your days on letting that go, like letting the negativity go in any way, whether it's family, friends, something somebody said on social, or something that happened at work, and moving forward in a positive way, like as fast as you can. The faster you can let that go, the better your life will start to be incrementally. So that is one of the biggest lessons I had.
Yeah, awesome.
I struggled with that a lot.
Yeah. I imagine, and I'm not sure if this is a sensitive question or not, but I imagine, well, I can't imagine anything actually. I'm just going to ask. Being new to the trade, did you find that there was a lot of people out there that were had the opinion that you might not make it, that you're too young, or you don't have the skill set because you've come from accountancy? Did you find that was a bit of a struggle in the earlier days, and even now maybe?
Oh yeah, people still remind me still to this day that, like, since I haven't been like there's like a preset number of years, and I think it's 20. Yeah. So because I haven't been tiling for that long, that I can't possibly share information or know what I'm doing. And so like that happens all the time. And going back to what I just said, it was really hard, like, because you hear it so many times that you start to believe it, you start to believe that. But that even so much so that like all the hard work you do, doesn't matter how many hours you work or how much you put into your knowledge, like you read books front to back, or like you make sure that like you reach out to people and you learn from the right people, and you're doing like you let those negative things in, or you let that it could literally take all of that away, so like sometimes you have to like really like put things into perspective again. But yeah, it happens. It happens.
Are you looking for a water drainage solution that serves its purpose and adds a touch of elegance to your space? Lux's Grates are here to revolutionise your indoor and outdoor spaces. Whether it's your shower, bathroom, balcony, pool, or any other area, Lux's Grates is the ideal choice. It's quick and easy installation that you can bang out in just over an hour. Their standard grates offer a classic and timeless look, while the next generation style adds a modern twist. Lux's Grates are made of high quality anodized aluminium, ensuring durability and longevity.
Hey, I forgot to ask before as well, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here with a few of my questions. What's your favourite part of the tiling process?
My favorite part is when you finish usually when you finish till the end and you like get to look at everything. But truthfully, like, for example, if like this one project I did, the client, I had this bright idea because the client was like, oh yeah, I like to shave in the shower. He likes to shave his head. He had a bald head. And I was like, oh, well, if we put a mirror in here, it's going to fog. And I found this product that you can put in the shower, and it gets wired because the mirror heats up, so it's on its own outlet.
Oh wow.
And it was a heated mirror, but like you don't see any of the wires in the shower. It just sits in the back of the niche or on the wall, and it's like recessed into the tile, and you turn it on before you get in and it won't fog up. So I decided, okay, let's do like a heated mirror niche, like a shaving niche. And I wanted to so we were doing 2 different tiles, and I like the 2 side walls of the shower were a different tile and the back wall was a different tile. And my goal was to get all of the grout joints with the tiles to line up. So like I went on this like hunt to find specific tiles that were going to fit this design I wanted, but also flow around the niche so that I could get like full cuts, because the mirror is a specific size, like how many tiles do I have, all of that. So something that is like very complicated with many moving parts. And it was a neo-angle shower too. So like we had a nice little neo-angle with a floating bench, but we got all the grout joints to line up. Everything worked out beautifully. And like I'm super proud of something like that. So when we it didn't matter. Like every day when I showed up to do that job and we left for the day, we were getting ready to clean up, like I would just have to stare at the progress we made, because there was a lot of challenges along the way with specific things, like, just working through that design with different product, with 2 different tiles, trying to get the niche perfect, making sure, like, because there were specific, technical requirements with the mirror, like you needed to have a specific amount of room, for expansion around the mirror, different than what the tile is, et cetera, et cetera. So like, there was just a lot of moving parts and things like that. While it's so hard and overwhelming going in, when you like bite it off in small chunks and you make that progress every day and you get to see the progress you're making and how beautiful it's coming, like from just a idea in your head, it's very rewarding. So that's my favorite.
Very cool. I like it. Yeah, the intricate part of tiling is pretty awesome, particularly when it challenges your creative and your logical mind at the same time, and you've really got to think through every facet of trying to get it right. And yeah, that's cool. Very cool. So we've talked quite a bit today about the digital media, social media space, and you've amassed quite a following the past few years. What's been some of your biggest keys to success in making that work for you with the trade that you do?
Just posting consistently, not pretending to be anybody else. Don't be anything else besides yourself. You have to want to do it. Like if you're doing it with the goal in mind of, I want this to go viral, it never will. You have to be sharing with a goal, right? Like your goal has to be like providing value just for some reason, to some extent. And then you have to do that consistently over time. And you have to understand that maybe no one will notice. And they might not notice for a long time. And it takes a long time to build up an audience. And it takes a long time to build up an audience that cares. Some people, they go viral or whatever, but like you can see that since the introduction of the short form content, which is great for getting more eyeballs on your brand, it's fantastic, but that doesn't really equate to much, right? Like, sure, if you're trying to become a content creator, like the more numbers, the better, the bigger reach, yada, yada. But a lot of us have other goals underlying that. And that would be either to market our business, market our brand, and not always do all of those numbers like convert to sales. While some companies might pay good money to have 1 million eyeballs on their trowel, great. But the likelihood of like those brand partnerships, like being able to like sustain you forever, it's like, how long do you want to be a content creator, right? Like we're all here, we're small business owners, we run a business, our brand is our name, and like promote, like the whole reason we don't work jobs and we don't work for somebody else is because we built up our own brand. And it's great to do all of that, but really at the end of the day, being strategic and understanding that your brand and your name needs to come first. And if it's 10 people watching the video and they watch it in its entirety and those 10 people give you feedback, it's way more valuable than having 100,000 people watch the video and you getting 3 comments. Because you have more people who have watched the video in its entirety. You have more people who sat down, took time to digest the information of what you're sharing. And then they also gave quality input on it. And those 10 people are going to watch all of your videos, or they're going to watch a good majority of it. So those 10 people are like, they're just way more valuable than that big mass. And so I think that now, like, social media has changed so much just in the last 2 years. So many people are just focusing on the numbers. And so like the quality of their content just keeps going down and down and down. And then like they stop caring about like the information they're sharing or what they're sharing, and they don't care. And it's just like, they're just worried about, okay, how many likes and clicks. It becomes like an addiction. So I just think that the best thing to do is just remember why you're doing it. Do not get caught up in the numbers, and just make sure that like what you're doing is providing value to the person on the other end of the screen, and do that consistently. There is no secret. That's the secret.
No, that is the secret, right? It's I take I take everything that you've said and I look at the podcast that I've created. Like, I've been in the building product space for just over 20 years. I've traveled to America numerous times. I'm dealing with, international supply partners all around the world that make tiling and tooling equipment. My podcast is, in terms of the whole scheme of digital media, has got, very small following in terms of numbers and a very small following in terms of subscribers and all that sort of stuff. It's a very niche area of business, but I know that I have probably over 95% genuine, authentic followers and subscribers and people that listen to the program. And when you eventually end up connecting with that audience and talking to them and chatting about tiling and the process and construction and building industry, they're really amazing conversations. So you're right. If you get too caught up in the numbers and focus in on that, it becomes addictive, and it's not beneficial for. It's generally not beneficial for your ultimate vision or mission. So you've really got to make sure you've got that mapped out beautifully, so that you just stick to that and don't worry about the numbers. They'll just happen when they happen.
Yeah. Over time, like if you look at anybody who has anything that's like, especially in the social media space, any space really, they started something, you're only now noticing them at a pivotal point where they're like reaching a lot of people. You don't see that, like the time that they invested or like how long they've been doing it or how many hours they spent. It's like, just keep doing it consistently. Does it suck? Yeah. Does it take extra time? Yes. Yeah. Is it, annoying? Yes, it can be. But if that's where if that's your goal, creating content, or even just for your business, like you just have to do it. Just do it, and like don't even look at it, and if somebody comments, be grateful, comment back, respond, engage with the people. Like, it's the first word of social media is social. And this is what I always say. People forget that, like, the goal of it was so that people talk back and forth. It's not like so that you could sit there and pretend you're famous and people leave comments and you don't respond, right? Like the algorithm doesn't like that. Respond, engage, talk to your audience, or just pretend they're your best friends, even though maybe it's 5 people watching. Those 5 people will engage and they will care, and it will result in more people coming and more people and more people. And over time it grows.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly not a one-way street. You definitely need to ensure you engage with your audience. That's for sure. And I treat my community, the community that we're building, is exactly like that. It's a community of people that have a genuine, authentic care and concern for wanting to strengthen the business of tiling, and it's growing. So look, I love it. And you're part of that journey now, so because you've been here today. So so I saw recently that you've started a tile academy. Tell me more about that.
So that is it's a passion project.
Yeah.
All stemming from all of the few of the things that I mentioned already, right? With the lack of adaptation to technology and stuff like that. We have, in the US, we have TCNA, which they have all the standards, right? So like that's the Bible of tiling. And we have also the National Tile Contractors Association. And that's like a membership type thing where like you join and, you're a member of this, you get like certain perks. They do training and things like that. A great organization. I've networked with many people in the organization and I love them. There's a lot of people that make decisions within these organizations that are still very they're so resistant to technology as a whole, right? Like they're still printing magazines, they're still advertising that way. And the information that really scientific, technical information behind, like that they spend hours and a lot of money researching in a lab, or any new product that comes out, like they're researching, they're writing specs. There's a bunch of people that sit around a table and they come up with all this, and it's like the information getting passed on to the end user, the tiler. It's not getting there. Like some of us are getting it, but that's because we had to search so hard. We have to know what we're looking for. We have to meet the people who already know about it, so that they're like, this is what you, and it's obvious to see that that's a problem, because if I post something on social media and there's hundreds of comments that are the same, that they're like, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, dude, this is a product that's been out since like the 70s. It's working. Like, you're probably showering in showers that have this product in it. Like, what are you talking about? So it's scary. I'm not saying that every tiler should know every product, but the basic stuff, that there's foam and sealant products that you could use to build a shower. There's liquid applied waterproofing membranes. Like, this basic stuff that they're just like flabbergasted by is kind of scary. Or like, they don't understand that, you can't use thin set to make up a low spot on a floor. Like, they think that you should be able to do that. And I'm like, no, actually, no, you're wrong. And so it's like, there's these little things that I come across all the time. And it's kind of led me to this thing where I'm like, I want to create something that is easily accessible. It can bring somebody, like, when I started tiling, if I would have had this, and I had somebody I can pay I had the videos of how to do stuff start to finish, the tools I needed, what are the different components of like this waterproofing system, how to attach the drain. Do you know how much I sweat the first time I had to do a drain? How long I stared at it before I knew what it was just these little things that you just being able to have that video walkthrough that you can like rewind it, rewatch it, rewatch it, refer back. Okay. Yeah. And then to be able to have the support of the person who made it to talk to you at any time is huge. And I wanted to create something that was easily accessible, easily digestible. They have it forever. It's not like they go to an on-site training, they get loaded with all this information, and then they leave. And then when you're on site and you run into a problem, now you have to like refer back to a data sheet, or you need to like call up a rep, or you need to, call up a friend of a friend. Like, did you ever see this? Did this ever happen to you? I'm stuck here. Or, not having that happen, where you could just be like, okay, like I remember, this is what I'm supposed to do. Let me rewind this video. You could pull it up on your phone. And that's my goal for that. I want to build it. I want to build it out a little bit more, but for now it's just the waterproofing course. But it all stems from my passion for education and easily accessible education, not something you have to like dig for and like be in the know about. It's like, it's there.
And it's one of those things that I think people like yourself and others, when they're doing that independent analysis and education piece on products, I find people are more willing to listen and learn, that sort of thing. I know that the various waterproofing companies, adhesive companies, caulking companies out there all do similar trainings on their products and that sort of thing. But I think, there's so many options out there with product that people are torn as to whether or not they're being trained or they're being led to use that product. So, I'm not going to mention any names, but it happens every day, right? So being an independent space and educating people on a variety of products, but more so focusing in on the process and what works and what doesn't work is so important. I think genuinely, I think, people would be more gravitated towards watching someone like yourself do that.
I wanted to say that, what you just said, but I didn't. It's a lot of it is very like product focused.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not focused around being like, okay, now I understand the skill behind building the shower, prepping the shower. My course, yes, I'm specifically using one product, but if you watch the course, you can for sure use other products because the course is based around how to do it and how to understand like the technical information. What are like the important components behind doing this so that it doesn't fail, how to test it, all of that. And so But yeah, I've been to many trainings, and even like the digital ones that some of the manufacturers put out, it is always just about like the product and very, very complicated specs that like certain things that like you would never run across on a job site. And while sometimes, yes, it's important and it's nice to have the information there if you need it, it's not really helping somebody who's like on the ground level installing, and they're like worried, or, you know, they're installing something for the first time, which I don't care. I've been doing it for 5 years. There's times I still run across specific problems that it's the first time I'm running across it. Doesn't mean that I'm less professional. It just means I've never ran into that problem, and I need to pull out the right tool in my box to be like, okay, who am I going to call, or what do I need to do? Let me make sure that this is the right approach, because yeah, I have enough problem solving skills in my brain that maybe I can figure it out, but I still am going to make that phone call and make sure that what I'm thinking is right. Because ultimately it's my name on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're human, right? So it's like, we learn from mistakes, and that's the beauty of mistakes. So many people out there are so afraid and scared of making a mistake, but it's actually a really great positive thing, that when the more mistakes you make, the stronger you become. Yeah. So yeah, super cool.
I don't know who says this quote. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's
somebody
cool.
says it, but if you know, that'd be great. So it's perfect is the enemy of good, right? So good and done is better than not done at all.
I love that. That's cool. I don't know who said that, but I've got that on video now. So brilliant. Well, look, tell me more about Schannon outside of Thailand. I saw recently your husband Chris. You guys were married recently. Is that right?
Yeah. So we recently got married in Mexico.
Awesome.
June 17th. So our 1 month being married anniversary just passed 2 days ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it was really amazing. It was really nice. Like this was somewhere we really wanted to get married for like ever. We went to this place when we were dating for the first time on vacation. And when we were there, we were like, oh, this is where we want to get married.
Oh, wow.
And so like we held on to that for 8 years and went back and did it. So it was even better than I could have imagined. Chris and I met. Beautiful. Yeah, Chris and I met quite a while ago, and like we've been living together for 7 of those 8 years that we've been together. So being married is not much different than what our relationship was already. We have a very close relationship. Like he is my best friend. He's my business partner. Like he motivates me and helps me be better. And I know I do the same for him. Like, well, I hope I do the same for him. And I think if he was here, he would say, but we were just like really happy to have that ceremony in that place with our closest friends and family. It was a lot more about that than it really was about anything changing in life. Like, oh, we're getting married. Like we already saw each other as our soulmates. So really, it was just like a celebration of that. We found that life partner.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what does the rest of 2023 look like for you? Any big plans? Any massive big projects coming up? What's happening?
So we are in works with this humongous house. It's a monstrosity. The house is 32,000 square feet. Wow. There's 5 bathrooms and 3 laundry rooms with a doggy wash. And like all the laundry rooms have like a drain in the center of the room. All of them have to be, we have to mud float the pans. We have to mud float the floors in the laundries, because we need to like figure out the slope, obviously, and then figure out, because she has like a big island in the middle, figure out where we're going to start the slope from. Are we sloping the whole room? All of that kind of stuff. And like she has upstairs bathrooms where she also has a bowling alley.
Wow.
Where she's having like a wet room style shower where the tub, the freestanding tub is in the shower, but instead of having the plumbing coming out, the tub filler coming out of the wall, it's coming out of the shower pan. So that is a whole other series of challenges for waterproofing that, because it's in the shower pan. So we're going to have multiple penetrations in the shower pan that aren't just like a little nick. It's like the whole pipe. So we're working with like the city inspector on that. We're working with the product manufacturer, trying to come up with a detail for the plumber, because the plumber's like, what? Like, how do I? Everybody is just kind of like, we stand there and we're like, well, we could do this and we could do this, and so it's very interesting.
So it sounds like your next 6 months.
Correct. So if that goes through, like, we're still in the very beginning phases. We haven't written up our contract or anything because she still has no idea what tile she wants. So she's like, okay, can you just like bid it based on this? Like, we gave her one price, but then she's adding more work. So we're like, we're still like in that gray area of her like still choosing on like what she wants to nail down and her signing the contract. So, if we get it, if we end up working with her, that would be fantastic. Her and the builder, the homeowner and the builder, they're really awesome. So we'll see.
Nice. Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, Shannon, this is the part of the episode that we like to ask a few fast track questions before we wrap things up. You've been amazing today. Thank you for sharing so much. I know this is the first time that you and I have spoken. Hopefully it won't be the last, but I'm sure it won't be. I usually get over to America every year or two. So, but yeah, look, throughout your journey in life, what's been some of who or what have been some of the biggest mentors that have helped you along your journey?
So the gentleman I mentioned earlier, his name is Paul Lucia. He now has a company called Built with Foam. And so he makes custom foam shower trays.
Yeah.
So, obviously we know that if you have a shower outside of a specific size, you can't use one of the preformed foam shower trays that a lot of these manufacturers make. He makes them custom, so whatever size you need. And he's also the guy who mentored us in the beginning with tile. He had a company for 40 years in Houston, and he stepped away to do Built with Foam, and he's doing wonderfully in that.
Nice. Awesome. I imagine, and I'm going to take a bit of a stab at this, that you've done a little bit of travel, international travel. If you had to choose one place in the world to live for the rest of your life, where would that be?
I haven't really done much international travel, to be honest with you. The only place I've gone was Mexico. I've gone there twice. That's it.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Where would be your favorite place? Where would you want to go next? If you could jump on a plane today, where would that take you?
I would like to go somewhere where I don't know a specific place, but I guess I can like just say Colorado. I want to go somewhere where there's like mountains and brisk air and a lot of nature. I love being outside. Yeah,
awesome. Colorado is one of those places that I think would be pretty cool to visit, actually. I
want to visit Australia for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hopefully once the cost of living balances itself out and these interest rates stop doing things and inflation goes the opposite way, it might become a little bit more affordable. And before inflation, it was expensive as it was for people to travel to Australia because of the exchange rates and stuff. So, but we'd love to have you here. You should definitely come. So another fun question that we'd like to ask, if you could choose one meal to eat for the rest of your life, what's that going to be?
This is going to be a really weird one. I love breakfast, so it would be like eggs, or eggs with pancake and bacon, or eggs with an English muffin and bacon. That's my favorite.
I like that. That's awesome. I fell in love with that part of eating that type of food when I was in Vancouver in 2016. I had because I'm a bit of a brunch fan, and having something at that time of the day, sort of like that 10 a.m. mark. And when you order their brunch, it just has everything in it. It has sweet, savory, has the whole lot, has the pancakes. The maple bacon, the maple syrup. Yeah, it's just fantastic.
And then you have some fruit, like it's just
there's fruit. Yeah, there's fruit on the plate as well, and you're like, what is this? Where do I start? Very cool.
Yeah.
Final question before we wrap up today. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self, or give your younger self some words of advice for them, what would that be?
That it would be, don't waste your time with things that don't serve you. So if you know in your heart that it doesn't make you happy, just don't do it.
Awesome. Love it. That's cool. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for being on today. You've given us so much time. I really appreciate it. A lot of our guests, obviously, we're building this community here, and we always like to connect people together. If people wanted to connect with Shannon outside of the show, what's the best way for them to reach out to you directly and connect in?
You can reach out to me on any social platform, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, even at That Tile Chick. Or if you have like a serious question about anything and you can't get in touch with me there, because sometimes my messages get overloaded, you can absolutely email me at thattilechick@gmail.com. Some people just, they have questions, and I'm more than happy to help or answer.
Very cool. Well, once again, Shannon, thank you so much for being on today. Thank you for being our very, very first international professional tiling contractor from Houston, Texas. I love it. Hopefully we'll have more people on soon.
Yeah.
But thank you. Have a terrific week. And we'll definitely, I can't wait to get this out and share this with the wider community.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's been a pleasure.